I was 11 the first time I saw him. I had just gotten out of school, and I remember being hot and tired, but still excited because I had chore money in my backpack. $8 and some change, crumpled into my bag next to a mechanical pencil I had found on the floor. That was enough for a Happy Meal, nuggets and fries, and a little toy I'd pretend I didn't care about, and a Sprite. The McDonald's was only a few blocks from the school and up the hill from my apartment. My mom wasn't crazy about me walking around alone, but she also worked 2 jobs and couldn't pick me up most days. If I got home before 5 and didn't talk to strangers, she didn't ask too many questions. And I kept my phone on 50% brightness to save battery, pretended like I was grown, and slid my earbuds in like I had somewhere important to be. That McDonald's became my little kingdom. Booth by the window, shoes kicked off under the table, watching YouTube Vine compilations on my cracked phone, while sipping a Sprite like it was champagne. I had just discovered Tumblr that year, and I was reposting Melanie Martinez fan edits, and thinking I understood what the word aesthetic meant. I was 11, going on 20, or at least I thought I was. That's probably why I didn't think it was weird when he sat near me. He didn't work there, I knew that much. He was too old to be hanging around during school hours and didn't have on a uniform. But the first time I assumed he was waiting for someone. He had on this navy hoodie, sleeves pushed up, and a raggedy backpack next to him, like he just got out of school. He looked maybe 17 or 18 at the oldest, with a face like he'd just started growing into it. Tall, white, and a very deep voice. He looked like one of those SoundCloud emo rappers. "You draw?" he asked, nodding at my sketchbook. I shrugged, trying to act unbothered. "Kinda," I said. "You got talent," he said, and I felt my chest puff up a little. Nobody ever said stuff like that to me, and especially not older boys. At school, most of the guys my age were busy with whatever the popular trends were back then. This one, he looked me in the eye when he talked, and he made me feel seen. The next time he was already there. Same booth, same backpack, and same easy smile when I walked in. "You again," he said. "You following me or something?" I laughed, a little too loud. He always knew what to say to make me feel grown. He'd ask me about school, and about my drawings, and about music. Then he started asking about other stuff, like what my background was, what kind of guys I liked. Said I didn't talk like the other black girls he knew, whatever that meant. I didn't even know how to respond to that one, but still I came back. Week after week, sometimes twice a week if I had extra change. And he was always there, like it was planned. The first few weeks, the conversations felt like a secret game. He'd show up at McDonald's like clockwork, sometimes early afternoon, sometimes after school. And we'd talk about everything, but what I was really thinking about. I liked how he made me feel special, like I was this rare thing. Not just a kid with a Happy Meal and a sketchbook, but someone worth paying attention to. When he asked for my number, I thought, this is it. I'm officially grown. I still remember the moment I handed him my phone, watching him punch digits into it. It felt thrilling, like I was stepping into a world I wasn't supposed to know about yet. My fingers brushed the screen, hesitated for a second, and then I pressed send on the first text I ever wrote to him. "Hey, it's me." His reply came almost immediately. "You're cute. You're always gonna be my favorite artist." That first text stayed with me for days. I showed it to my best friend like it was a badge of honor. "He thinks I'm cool," I told her, my voice a little higher than usual. "He really listens." She shrugged, told me to be careful, but I didn't want to hear it. Middle school kids always try to act like they're grown anyway. Everybody's pretending. I was just pretending a little bit better. The text started innocently enough. "What are you drawing now? Did you finish your homework? Are you watching that new Stranger Things?" And he even sent me links to music and playlists he said reminded him of me. But over time, things got a little different, a little heavier. He'd ask stuff that made me pause. Questions about my body, if I started changing yet, who I liked, if anyone had kissed me. I felt weird, but also proud to answer, like I was a grown woman sharing secrets with a friend. Sometimes I'd get texts when I was supposed to be asleep. Bet you look good in your pajamas. You staying up late thinking about me. I told myself it was a joke, that he was just being funny. It was a part of the game, and I was just learning the rules. I wanted to be in on it. After all, kids at school were trading stories about boys and crushes like it was some sort of competition. I didn't want to be the only one who had never been talked to like that. But even then, there were moments when my stomach flipped. When he asked if I had started growing hair yet, or sent me a picture of his hand gripping a pillow. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. I didn't want to lose him, and besides, I thought I was grown enough to handle it. I thought I knew what I was doing. Still, I kept going to the McDonald's, even on days I didn't have any money. Sometimes I'd sit further away, pretending not to notice him watching me. And I told myself I was just being cautious. I told myself I was in control. But the truth was, it was harder to breathe when he was around. Like the air was thicker, heavier, and I didn't know how to make it stop. And it wasn't like I told my mom about any of it. I knew she wouldn't understand. She was busy with work, with bills, with trying to keep everything together. And I was supposed to be a kid, not dealing with this kind of stuff. So I kept it all inside, tucked away under layers of laughs and texts and drawings. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way his smile sometimes didn't reach his eyes. The way his questions stopped being about me and started being about control. But back then, I was 11, and I thought I was grown. And this was my first mistake. I thought blocking the number would end it. When my mom found the text, she didn't scream or curse like I thought she would. She stared at me, motionless. Then she said very quietly, "You blocked that boy. Don't answer. Don't go back there. Do you understand me?" And I nodded. She didn't say anything else. She walked out of the room and left me sitting there with my heart pounding and my phone locked in her hand. And I told her I'd stopped going to McDonald's, and for a while I did. I stayed home after school, watched anime reruns on my tablet, and sketched in silence. My best friend at the time kept texting me to hang out, but I kept saying no. And I wanted to be good, I really did. But something about the quiet made me feel itchy. And I missed the days where he made me feel seen, like I wasn't just some awkward kid with Velcro sneakers. I missed the attention, and even if the words were weird sometimes, even if the questions made my stomach twist. So one Friday when my mom had a double shift, I walked back to the McDonald's. I told myself I wasn't going to talk to him. I'd just sit, eat, and then leave. That was it. And I had $10 from babysitting my cousin the weekend before. I ordered a Happy Meal, even though I told myself I wasn't a little kid anymore. It just felt safe and familiar. He was already inside. Same hoodie, same old backpack, same smile, but it didn't look soft this time. It looked sharp. He watched me sit down in the booth by the window like he'd been waiting. I thought maybe he'd give me a nod from across the room. Instead, he walked straight over and slid in next to me. Not across, directly next to me. Right there on the same side, his body pressed against mine. I stiffened, staring at the tray in front of me, and my hands were shaking a bit. "You've been avoiding me," he said, low and flat. I tried to laugh. "No, I've just been busy, homework and stuff." He didn't laugh back. Instead, his leg pressed harder against mine, and I could now feel how much taller and how much bigger he was. He was taking up all the space, and I suddenly felt how small my arms really were, and how my hoodie sleeves still bunched up at the wrists, because I hadn't hit that growth spurt yet. And I wasn't grown. I wasn't even close. He leaned in, and his hot breath hit against my face. "I thought you were different," he said. And I thought you could handle grown-up things. But just like the rest of them little girls, you're just scared. My whole body went still. Then, without warning, he put his hand on my thigh. He gripped it tight, his fingers digging in like he was trying to leave a mark. I winced, but I didn't say anything. My whole brain just shut off. He wasn't looking at me anymore, just staring straight ahead, his fingers still pressing into the soft part above my knee. And I thought you were actually mature, he said, almost like he was sad. I guess I was wrong. I don't even remember standing up. I just remember the sound of the tray clattering to the floor, my fries spilling under the table, the little toy bouncing out of the box and rolling near his foot. And I didn't stop to grab it. I didn't look back. I walked out the front door, like I had somewhere to be, and then ran the second my feet hit the sidewalk. I didn't cry until I got home, my thigh throbbing where his fingers had been. After that, I didn't go anywhere but school and home. Even walking past that McDonald's made my stomach twist. That Friday was the last time I tried to act like an adult. It was the last time I let myself believe that I was really in control. Looking back now, he saw me alone. He saw how eager I was to be taken seriously, and how easy it was to plant compliments like seeds, and watch them grow into something he could use. And I gave him room. I let him sit next to me. I laughed when he said creepy things. I answered texts that I didn't know how to respond to. But I was 11. I just knew I wanted to feel special, and he knew exactly how to use that. I think about that grip on my thigh more than I want to admit. Not because it hurt, but because it changed something in me. That moment snapped the fantasy clean in half. I wasn't an adult, and I was a little girl in a hoodie too big and a heart too soft to carry the weight he put in it. And I remember how fast the fear came rushing in, how fake all the flirting felt after. I remember the silence afterward, the kind that sticks to you. Now that I'm 21, I catch myself watching girls like I used to be, sitting at McDonald's, earbuds in, and doodling on napkins, thinking they've got it all figured out. And I want to tell them, you don't. That's not your fault, it's his. The older boy who keeps showing up where you feel safe. The one who talks to you like you're different, like you're smarter than everyone else, like he's doing you a favor just by paying attention. And that boy doesn't think you're special. He thinks you're easy to fool. And I'm not ashamed of being that little girl anymore. I was soft and bright and curious, and he mistook that all for permission. But I'm angry for her. I wish somebody had caught me walking into that McDonald's and told me to go home. And I wish I had believed my mom the first time. And I wish I had known that no grown man should ever have been paying that much attention to a kid. I don't remember when it started. I was too young. Johnny, one of my neighbors, used to sneak in through the crawl space at the back of my closet to play. Even now, I can still picture him so clearly in my head. His sharp blue eyes, embedded in sunken sockets, his filthy, unwashed hands, fingernails overgrown and caked in dirt, his crooked smile with 3 front teeth missing. I can still smell him too, the musk of sweat and grime, the sickly sweet stench of someone who's been rolling in grass and dead leaves. He seems like such a recent memory, even now, 19 years later. As much as I want to, I can't forget him. Not after what happened in the summer of 2006. 3 knocks from inside my closet. That was a sign that Johnny was there. I opened the door, greeted by my friend, his toothy smile on full display. I returned the gesture, inviting him into my room. Hurry up, I want to show you the new game I got. Pokemon Emerald had come out a year prior, and I had just managed to scrounge up enough money to buy it. I took Johnny by the wrist, his lanky frame bending awkwardly to accommodate. He didn't protest. He listened intently as I explained the game mechanics, his eyes glued to the screen. That's one of the things I liked about Johnny. He was an adult, but he didn't treat me like all the other grown-ups did. He listened to what I had to say, and he made me feel seen. Maybe that's why I didn't tell anyone sooner. After around 30 minutes, Johnny told me he had something of his own that he wanted me to see. I perked up, temporarily distracted from my game. I found it at the park today, he said, extending a cheap camera for me to hold. I didn't want to put him down. I had a way nicer one than that, but he was obviously proud of it. Neat, I said, turning it over in my hands. Do you want to take a picture? Johnny nodded, a grin inching across his lips. I leaned in and he took a snapshot of us. We couldn't see what it looked like yet. He'd need to get the film developed for that. Cool, I'll give you one when I get them back. We suddenly heard footsteps creaking down the hall, and Johnny's eyes grew wide. We knew what that meant. He scrambled to my closet, shutting himself inside before my mother reached my room to tell me that dinner was ready. I didn't see Johnny very much after that. That wasn't too unusual, though. Sometimes he would go a week or so without coming to see me. I think about 10 days had passed before I heard the signal from my closet again. I eagerly leapt up and threw open the door. Johnny's familiar grin was there to greet me. He accompanied me to the rug where we usually sat, stationed in front of the TV. Come on, Johnny. You said you'd play Jenga with me last time. I got the blocks set up already, I said, tugging him to where the tower sat, undisturbed, from where I had built it days prior. Yeah, I remember, but first I got something for you, he said, pulling a photograph from his pocket. I'd forgotten all about it. Here, this is for you. He handed it to me and I glanced down at our smiling faces. My eyes traveled from the photo to the corkboard on my wall. Johnny understood the implication. Joey, you gotta keep this picture somewhere safe, okay? Somewhere your mom can't find it. We'll both get in big trouble if she sees. I nodded. We'd been over this plenty of times before. Mom couldn't know about Johnny. Not ever. If she found out, he wouldn't be able to come over anymore. Johnny started coming by more frequently after that. He began showing up almost nightly, to the point where it was becoming a routine. He would knock and I'd let him in, and we'd play with action figures or board games, or draw pictures until Mom would come down the hall and scare him off. I didn't have many friends in school, so I really enjoyed our arrangement. That is, until one night when Johnny came back a little different. A day went by without him popping in, then 2, and then 3. After I hadn't heard from him in 2 weeks, I was starting to worry. What if something bad happened? As much as his absence shook me, I knew there wasn't a thing I could do about it. I was just a kid. But to my relief, eventually he did come back. But now I wish he never did. I was sitting on my bed reading a comic book when I heard it. 3 knocks from inside my closet. These didn't sound like Johnny's regular knocks, though. They were quicker, more frantic. I didn't register the difference at first. I was just happy that Johnny had finally returned. I leapt off my bed and raced over to the door, throwing it open. With a huge grin on my face, I expected to find Johnny standing there, bearing that same toothy smile that he always did. But when I opened the door, I was met with a different sight. Johnny stood before me, but he wasn't smiling. He looked even dirtier than he normally did. The coat he wore pockmarked with holes and his hands caked in a layer of grime. He had scabs all over his face, as if he'd been relentlessly picking at the flesh. His eyes darted around the room, shifting from one object to another. My heart dropped, and I could tell that something was very wrong. Johnny, are you okay? I asked, a sudden feeling of unease coursing through me. Johnny's eyes snapped to me. His scleras marred with spiderwebbing red veins. He grabbed my wrist and tried ushering me toward the closet. Joey, there's something I have to show you. Come with me. He pulled me hard, his dirty fingernails digging into my flesh. Little red droplets appeared, tumbling onto the floor. By that point I was scared. This man was not the gentle, caring friend I knew. I screamed, both out of fear and pain. I could hear Mom's footsteps crashing down the hall in response. Normally Johnny would have hidden at the sound, but not this time. He was determined to take me with him. "Joey, you have to see this. I need you to see this. They're going to get me soon." Tears involuntarily welled in my eyes. I didn't know what Johnny had to show me, and I didn't want to. Fortunately, I would never have to see what it was. My mom bursted into the room. It took her a moment to register what was happening, but the second she did, she rushed over to us and began hitting Johnny as hard as she could. He eventually let me go and fell to the floor. Then Mom scooped me up and bolted down the hall and into her room, where she locked the door and phoned the police. I didn't see Johnny being led out of the house in handcuffs. I'm glad I didn't. I think that image would have stuck with me for a very long time. Mom had long since forgotten about the panel at the back of the closet, buried by old clothes and shoes. Inside was a small storage room. It turns out there was never a crawl space that led outside. I had been lied to, but even more disturbing was what the police found in their search. Among a slew of wrappers and empty food containers, they discovered a sleeping bag, dozens of dirty needles, and photographs. Hundreds of them. I was in every single one of them. Walking home from school, eating breakfast, playing with the neighborhood kids. I didn't know how he got some of them. That still terrifies me. How many times had Johnny been lurking just out of sight? Additionally, they had found a notebook. It had only one entry. The photograph I had taken with Johnny was taped inside with the words, "Johnny and Joey, best friends forever," written underneath. I don't know how many years he received. We moved shortly after he was apprehended, and Mom didn't ever bring it up again. I don't blame her. I also tried my best to forget. But even after all this time, I can't get it out of my head. Sometimes I glance down at the tiny scar on my wrist and wonder what would have happened had I followed Johnny into that room. The worst deaths, in my opinion, are always accidental. I read last week about a mother who rolled onto her newborn and suffocated it. Every year, toddlers die from being left in hot cars. And then you hear stories of kids playing games, like one boy who hid in an unplugged freezer and suffocated to death during hide and seek. Can you imagine? Imagine being the person responsible in any of these situations. To me, this is so much more terrifying than the prospect of the paranormal. I'd much rather be haunted by a ghost than by guilt over unintentionally hurting someone. My husband, Wade, is the opposite. He's unbothered by accidents, but petrified of horror movies about demons or vengeful ghosts. But as I told him, none of those things are real, so why be scared? He counters that accidents are without malice, therefore not as scary as murderous ghosts that might be real. I mean, I guess he has a point about the lack of malice, not about ghosts that might be real. I know they're not, because if they were, my best friend would definitely be haunting me. And I guess in some ways she is. You see, whenever I read about a prank gone wrong, I stop breathing for a moment. I'm choked by guilt. After all these years, I still don't know if it was my own fault or not. I was never charged, and my friends insist I need to stop blaming myself. But how can I? How can I move on, not knowing if it's because of me? Rosa got into the suitcase on her own. Lakeisha and I helped her, and we were all drunk and giggling. She was supposed to surprise Bolin. She had a huge crush on him at the time. Let me back up, and let me try to explain the situation in full. We were at a party. Our friend group had been together for years, and we rented out this lodge. Me and my husband Wade, who back then was just my crush, his buddies Bolin and Tucker and JB, and the girls who were my besties, Lakeisha and Rosa and Kay. There were also some other friends who stopped by who we met earlier in the day while hiking. I can't remember their names anymore. What I do remember though is that we all had a lot to drink. Rosa was my best friend, but she wasn't exactly perfect. She was like a butterfly who sips from every flower, a real heartbreaker, beautiful and passionate, I was a little bit jealous of the attention she had, and also kind of in awe of her. Whoever she was with fell hard, like she was the love of their life, but she never committed. She'd be on again off again with JB, then seduced Wade, which was kind of a bitchy thing because she knew I had a crush on him at the time. Now her eyes were on Bolin. I forgot whose idea it was for her to hide in the suitcase, mine or hers. All the luggage was in the basement because that's where the boys had put it when we had arrived at the lodge. Lakeisha said something like, Bolin's suitcase is big enough to hide a body, and that's when Rosa, or me, had the idea she'd hide in it. And Rosa decided to spice up the prank by wearing lingerie. When Bolin took the suitcase up to his room and opened it, he'd find a sexy surprise. We were stupid, very, very stupid, and none of us had good judgment, especially since we were very drunk. Once Rosa squeezed inside, whining about her hair getting caught in the zipper, Lakeisha and I went to go badger the boys to bring everyone's bags to their rooms. I remember Bolin delivered mine, and I was staying outside in a tent with Kay. The lodge didn't have enough bedrooms for everybody, and we wanted to sleep under the stars anyway. Kay had no idea about the prank, and was confused when I kept urging Bolin to go inside and check his bag. After he left, I told her about Rosa, and because Kay was actually sober, she told me to go make sure Rosa wasn't stuck in there. So I checked to make sure the suitcase wasn't still at the bottom of the stairs. At least, I think I did. But I was drunk. While all of us were sitting outside watching fireworks later, I noticed Bolin missing and asked Wade where he went. He told me Bolin had gone up to his room early. Since he hadn't come back, Lakeisha and I assumed Rosa was in there with him, and that her lingerie stunt had worked. In fact, Lakeisha and I were whispering about it all evening. In the morning when Bolin came down, Lakeisha and I asked him about last night, all smirks. He looked completely clueless. Then Lakeisha asked where Rosa was, and he was still clueless. But what about his suitcase? Hadn't he opened it? He said someone had shoved all his clothes into the closet in a pile, and he wasn't sure why. He assumed he was being pranked or something, and he hadn't seen his suitcase. So you never opened it? Asked Lakeisha. Dread bloomed in my belly. Oh God, I thought. Lakeisha was telling him how he'd be taking his clothes out and Rosa had hidden inside, hoping to surprise him in her lingerie, and Bolin blushed and said that he was gay. Gay, but his coming out had hardly even registered because where was Rosa? None of us knew. We quickly went to wake everyone else up, hoping someone had seen her last night. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. I checked. Didn't I check? I swear I checked. Prayers ran through my head, but I was drunk. I wasn't sure if I really had. I went downstairs to the basement. There was the suitcase, still tucked away at the bottom of the stairs. It was exactly where we left it when we zipped Rosa inside the night before. Nobody wanted to open the suitcase. The boys argued about who had left it there. JB said he lifted it but noticed how heavy it was and asked someone else to take it. Each of them had thought another guy was going to grab it. Bolin didn't think to check because he found his clothes piled in the closet. I'm ashamed to say I went outside when Lakeisha reached for the zipper. Wade came out and joined me. While the others checked the contents of the suitcase, Wade and I just sat outside. As we heard the gasp and whispers, his fingers gripped mine tightly, and I put my head into my hands and sobbed. She'd suffocated, of course, but it had taken a long time. The police wondered why none of us had heard her gasping for help, but Kay sheepishly told them about the fireworks. A prank gone wrong, authorities ruled. My friends said then, and still say now, that ultimately Rosa was the one most responsible for her own misfortune, that she'd made her own decisions, that all of us were a little guilty, but none of us was wholly responsible for a tragic accident. But it was my hand that closed the zipper. I've lain in bed, thinking about her gasping for air. Why didn't she scream? Why didn't we hear any muffled shouts? I imagined her, squeezed into the darkness, while her pleas for help go unanswered. But the real reason I'm writing this is because this morning I saw a story in the news about a woman in her underwear, found strangled on the beach. My husband switched away from the reporting, and when I asked why, he looked surprised and said he thought it might trigger me. Why? I asked. It wasn't a prank. I thought it might remind you of Rosa, you know, the lingerie. I suppose that aspect was similar. To be honest, the part of the tragedy had never really stuck with me as much. But now I think about how we all stopped talking about her afterwards. How her death was only a blip in the news. No details were released. In our friend group, Rose's death became a taboo subject, almost like she had never been with us at all. We all silently agreed to forget her, but the more I think of that report on the news, the more I'm getting the feeling from that day. That top of the stairs feeling. Like I'm looking down and seeing something I don't want to see. That oh God sense of dread. And I'm about to be sick. Because Wade dated her too, and he loved her as well. And I'm more and more certain I looked down the stairs before the fireworks and there was no suitcase there. And now I'm wondering, if Wade never saw what was in that suitcase, never picked it up or opened it or moved it, how did he know she was wearing lingerie when she died?